Okay, today we're working on a creature from the Black Lagoon. You turn it on and it kind of does nothing. But listen. Here it's farting. Hear that little farting. It's like trying to boot. Here, see how the GI flashes? It's flashing. Alright, so let's check some voltage. First on the driver board, TP2 plus 5 volts is 4.98. That's perfect. It's about as good as it gets. Now let's go over to the CPU board, and it's at 494. So that means we don't have any significant voltage drop across the connector going from the power driver board to the CPU board. But I will, just for shits and giggles, reset these two connectors and see if the voltage has changed, just to verify that these two connectors are not an issue. No change. But look, when I do the input connector from the transformer, guess what happens? Yeah, she boots. So that connector definitely is a problem. If we pull it off, look, it's burnt. Look at that. It's toasty brown. So this guy's definitely got to get replaced. No doubt. Alright, put a new connector in, crimped with trifurcon pins. Just the female side, though, as of now. Let's put that on. And turn her on. And let's check the voltages. You can hear it boots. Alright, we've still notice the voltage hasn't significantly changed. 496. If anything, it went down a little. And 493 at the CPU. These are still in acceptable range, but one thing that we can account for is a ripple in the voltage due to bad capacitors. Now, just for giggles, let's button her up and try playing with the flippers, because the thing's going to reboot. You know, using the flippers, we need to know about that now. So I like to put it in test. It's just the easiest way to time of day. Easiest way to check things. All right, left flipper, both flippers. Look, both flippers one time, and the game resets. So we know we still got a reset problem. On the back of the board, you can see somebody's worked on this and they ran jumper wires. Too thin of jumper wires, but they did do it. You know, looking at these two caps right there, they look original, and also the bridges, looking at the side, they look original. Here's all the parts I replaced, but because this is a re-import and some questionable work had been done, I put a new cap in, new C5 cap, a new C4 cap, a new BR2 bridge rectifier, new male connector pins here, and then of course up here in the harness, new trifurcon crimps. I'm not going to do anything beyond that. That should do it. Make sure that this guy is tight, make sure this guy is tight, clean up the connectors. On the back of the board where the bridge was, I put in new jumper wires, 18 gauge instead of those little wimpy ones. But here's the new cap and here's the new bridge. It was questionable what had been done, so I think it was just safer to do this and just be done with it. Board, you can tell it's definitely a re-import. All these jumpers are missing. If they were all in except for the right one or the right two, that would be USA. Or if like the third from the right was missing, that would be Germany. But anyways, you know this game was a re-import, so that's why I'm always a question. Parts are harder to get overseas, or apparently they are, and so I'm always questionable about what repair work has been done. Also a 3-bang coin entrance door. Somebody put quarters on this, so somebody bought this and tried to make it USA, but this is definitely a German coin door. Look at this too. I see this on a lot of re-imports, and I bet if we look in the inside at the sticker on the wall, which is can't really see too well, I bet you it'll show us that it's 220 volts originally. Alright, we got our new parts, and I'm just going to check the voltages, though I don't really expect them to be much different. It was 497, now it's 498. And then over here on the CPU, it's 494. So really the voltages have not changed, even though we put in a new bridge and a new cap and a new cap and the female and male connector. But now the test is if we see if it'll reset. I like to put them in and test, and that way I can just hit the flippers, see if it resets. Look at that, it doesn't reset. Before it was resetting. Now it's not resetting. So we fixed the problem. So bottom line is, I think the 12 volt filter cap right here, 12/5 volt filter cap, I think that's really what went. But replaced the bridge anyways, just as a precaution, just because this board had been worked on and had questionable history. I didn't know what was going on. Always replace this little C4 cap. I always do that. And of course the connector was also problematic, as we saw initially in the whole reboot. And now I think we're ready to actually play a game.
Now on with the show.